Alright, so this was from Quarantine Rapport 2, Silent Black Cat as blue, and Sig as orange sheep in grand finals. Just wanted to give a little bit of analysis on this. This is on my Twitch channel. I'll upload the whole VOD to YouTube when I get the chance. But yeah, I wanted to go over this because this match was like super interesting. I wonder here if I can control playback speed and stuff like that too. I can, that's awesome. Um, we'll just let kind of the video play. I'm here using Epic Pen to kind of make some notes on the screen. Um, so we'll just kind of take it as we go here. Let's see. So it's actually super interesting even from the start because both of these players did the exact same thing, which was just kind of crazy to me. I think I made a comment on that. I think they do the exact same opening or something like that. Oh, maybe it wasn't this game then. But yeah, you'll see here. Let me see. I'll already change the playback speed. Change to 0.75. It's easier to kind of go over the things. But here, what is looking like things that are getting set up is that actually, can I go even slower? Yeah, I can. Yeah, so this is kind of not looking too good for blue here because orange has the anchor, and so they'll have control over all this center space here. So blue has to find a way to get over. This is some good spider defense. So orange. One of the things that Sig does that I really like is that he's constantly moving throughout this match. I think I made a comment on that during the commentary as well. But he's just constantly moving around. Meanwhile, Silent tries to play more positionally advantaged positions. Here, Sig has good awareness. He kind of has to come back. I would have liked it. I mean, he had X. I think he would have been able to go right and then climb up this, but that's all right. Good push. This is crazy from Silent. That's like a frame perfect interaction there because you have spider invulnerability when you move between blocks, so you can go like left, right, and avoid drop kicks. And so it's very tight frame window to actually get the invulnerability and avoid the push out. And since Sig was in altered state because he DP'd, he lost that interaction. So that was just really crazy stuff, really high level. I have my coffee here, enjoying this. Looks like the same openings, I believe. Maybe they played a different match where they had the same exact opening that I'm misremembering. Here, Sig has this kind of interesting build. He goes into the tower and builds it that way. Meanwhile, Silent has more classical kind of style opening. This means that this whole center is going to fall out, but Sig catches it. I kind of like that because now Silent's going to be in a similar position as last time. Okay, Sig drops this whole middle now. Um, but Silent's going to be in somewhat of a similar position to where Orange probably has a slight advantage in terms of build. I think once Sig actually collapsed this, that it about evens it out. But especially with all this collapsing, this is this to me is kind of a questionable decision. I don't know if I would have dropped all this. I think once I'm about here already, I'd say, oh yeah, I have a better structure. I have better potential to keep climbing. So I think I would have preferred to just keep doing that. I don't think I would have tossed this away. I think I would have just kept climbing up. Yeah, I don't think I would have tossed that. Uh, or like if you would have tossed that, I think what might have been a nice touch would have been to first. Let's see where it is. Oh, did I already miss it? Maybe. No. I think what might have been a nice touch would be when this would have fallen to instead push this block to the left first because that would be in this column and that would catch this block, and so you would have the advantage in terms of the height once all this falls, right? So once this falls out, I think I would have just waited a second, right? Because if this was over, it would have caught this block and also this block, right? And then you're starting to get this shape to where, everything's like a tree, right, with its branches. Everything's like this crazy V where, blocks hang on the diagonals. And so if you're able to kind of block out your opponent like this, it's really neat and it's tricky to see while you're climbing. So it would have probably cause silent to like run into an issue later on. Um, let's see, can I get rid of those? Cool, I can. I'm starting to learn the shortcuts with this Epic Pen tool, so that's pretty convenient. But anyway, that's not what we get. We get this. I would have liked to. I think what might have been a nice, cute solve here would have been pushing this block in instead. Uh, Yada yada yada. He's doing this. But when he does this pull and then over, I think a push in and then a pull back would have been a good move. Because that would drop this and that would just hang on there. Instead of kind of always doing these pulls into this, you know, this row. I don't particularly like that. But again, he's going for a different strategy here. He's doing for this push out. Silent kind of recognizes this, and so Silent's able to kind of just set up, right? They got lots of thickness here, so they're okay. They're setting up to. I think what probably would be the move, honestly, is they're spidering here to lower the chances. Honestly, they could have just dropped even more. I mean, they don't have to worry really about climbing, because they can just match the same position that orange is in. Like it's not like they have to drop or anything. They have the way up, so they can actually just completely go back. But I think what would have been one more nice touch would be a pull on this block, because if you pull this, then you're setting up for it. Because at some point in time they're going to try to do this drop, right? And so if this block is pulled, that sets up really nice for this drop kick down into oblivion. Um, so the position's good, but I think it could be a little bit better. I think that they're setting up for some nice defense. Um, but yeah, they could literally just drop here, and orange won't be able to spawn an item. Instead, they kind of wait. Orange gets the block, and now blue does that pull. But that pull would have been nice a little bit earlier to set up, right? I would have liked a push on this as well, because then that would threaten this block. I like that. Nice setup for the pin, and then of course, rest is kind of history. Okay, yeah, they just go straight to stage select. That's good. There's nothing you can do once blue gets that, so makes sense. You go to quad for the next game. Okay. Um, so quad's interesting. The no items. Yeah, that's pretty much all I'll say about that. Oh, sorry, I was going crazy there for a minute. Yeah, the no items. Both of these players are pretty good. The one thing that you have to be aware of, right, is this section right here, right? Because the tricky thing about this map is where this particular block makes it where it is difficult to push out, right? The combo, especially of these double dark blocks. And so if you're able to push out this column, it becomes much easier to get rid of these two blocks. So, um, both of these players are able to kind of, at least historically, maneuver around that and kind of make moves to where they're able to develop their climbing, but also start to threaten a push out. So you have to be like really cautious. Looks like here Sig had a couple misinputs. You could see, right? I mean, yeah, just a couple flubs there. Here it kind of looks like it's going to be a normal play. Um, let's see. Just trying to think what exactly is going on. This guy's going to drop here. This is about normal quad play, so nothing too interesting going down. Here you see Silent doing a lot of these. They'll step up on top and then wait to kind of see what orange does, which I like. This position is actually pretty good for blue. You could do a couple things, I think, or you could set up to do a couple things. Orange can really only go to here, right? I mean, I guess they could spider around and start to do some stuff with your block. Um, I wouldn't really worry about that too much, though. You know that once orange has pulled this, that blue gets the kind of initiative, right? Um, oh, actually, I don't even know why I'm going up there. Orange can only go down here, right? So there's not much that orange can really do to interfere with you. So you know that orange is going to probably come up here, and probably since they pulled this block, probably here. And so what you can do is set up real nice where you hop down here, wait for orange to climb up. You get the pillow hit. You go, you push this, and you push this in, and that causes this block and this block to drop. And that actually gives you a really pleasant way up where you go up and up. Um, That's been a relatively recent discovery in terms of like the quadrangle meta, and it makes the position like this because historically, and the most intuitive I think answer to solve the climb is to do, I don't know, I think it's called it's not the Inazuma, I don't think, but whatever it is, just make a normal staircase, right? You just pull 3 blocks and there you go. But that's relatively slow and not really good for quadrangle. You don't want to be spidering too much. You want to actually limit your pulls as much as possible. So maybe one day I'll spend more time and kind of analyze this structure and see if there's anything else we're kind of missing, because I feel like there might be, um, in terms of making things drop, and doing even less pulls. It's just kind of tricky because you slide everywhere. So anyway, back to the match actually. So let's see what Silent does here. So Silent does this pull, right, which is, that was really good. They were able to get that. That would have been a little bit scary. Sig does, you see, he does a variation of what I was saying, making the outside drop. Pretty good. I think he's going to do the same thing here. Yeah, and that's really nice because that gets rid of this Paradise. However, Blue setting up real nice for this Spider defense. Kind of drops it there. It happens. Gonna drop it, or I'm gonna right up to a flub maybe. Here, this is kind of a scary position, right? Because Orange has so much Spider defense potential. I think if I was Orange, I would have kept playing Spider defense for a little bit longer, but that's okay, I guess. Um, let's see here. Yep, setting up for the Paradise on that side. This is going to drop. This makes things actually a little bit. Oh, I didn't realize that there was a block here for that to catch on to. Uh, I think this is pretty much it. I mean, you can see they're already at the top, and I'm not sure what Blue can do to make up for that difference. Yeah. So I think not a super exciting quadrangle game. A little bit of tense interactions, a little bit of thinkums, um, but nothing too crazy happened this game, I don't think. Um, hmm. Let's see what happens the next time. Both players go for the outside. This opening's pretty quick. Orange is going to cross over to the middle here, and you can see they're already attacking this middle column, and that forces Blue to kind of go in a little bit because that allows Blue to have a nice transition to where if Orange does stay in the middle, Blue can actually cross over and do stuff. Here, Orange is going to take advantage of this block from Blue. That was a nice pull from Orange. Um, just, yeah, trying to think what else there's really to talk about at the beginning here, but there really isn't. I really like this though because this is just kind of like a scary abstract position of Orange being in this column, because typically that's going to give you, dive kick opportunities, especially more important one is over this middle, right? Giving you dive kick potential over this column, every time that you go up. And that's going to be really important because the middle is the scary place, and more importantly, the other player will only have 2 blocks to really work with, and so their climbing is kind of going to be hindered a lot. Meanwhile, Orange has effectively 3 blocks to work with, right? They have 3 blocks that are pretty secure. Meanwhile, Blue will typically only have 2. Um, so, and then also, you're next to the dark block, so when you go up, you can cross over really easily, as opposed to Blue has to slide across another block to get there. So, I think in terms of column-wise, that the inside column, similarly for Blue, I think that this column is a pretty good column. But the strength of being on the outside like this is where you are able to play things a little bit more reactionary, right? Because Orange has to make the decision if they are pushing this out or not. And when they commit to pushing out, when they take the time to do that, that allows you the time to set up and possibly attack them, right? Either through pillow hits or setting up positionally. So it's kind of a trade, right? They get one more offensive position, but you get one more defensive or reactionary position. So that's kind of just an interesting thing. I think here what I would have done, which I don't think would have been super right, but would have been the same thing that was last game where you push out. I think I would have pushed this and then pushed this, and then these would have fallen. That would have set up real nice with this Paradise row as well. Um, so I think that would have been my approach. I think that would have been a little bit simpler, but I think this is fine too because there's actually nothing that blue can really conveniently pull. I mean, they can try to pull this, right? But when they do that, because of this dark block here, they can't drop these. And so they only have a complicated long solve. So blue will be looking to cross over and use this block. So I think that orange probably makes the right call by keeping the advantageous position. All right. And then, of course, there's the block riding from here, right? Blue's able to get the pull, and orange kind of chases it. That's good because what could have happened there was that orange would have went left and slid on the block while blue pushed it, and then orange would have actually ended up dying. So that was one possibility as well. So this sets the score 1-1. This was a really good set too. I liked watching it a lot. Very high level, and it makes me happy because like it was a net play, and so there were actually like lots of new players too. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. There were lots of new players, and so oh, I want that a little bit higher. Let me see if I can get the volume just right. All right. Yeah, there were lots of new players. I think we had 10 people sign up total, and then there were two newbies, and we had about 20 viewers consistently, which is nice because there was a lot going on. It was really interesting. Just good games throughout, and I hope that um, we're able to kind of keep this momentum when we go back into uh, real live events. That would be nice. Anyway, let's talk more about some Catherine stuff. Spiral corridor. So one of the things that spiral, you got the dark hole blocks, right? One thing that will kind of be a battle is trying to figure out how to use them to attack your opponent. They're similar to spike blocks, right? Where you're constantly looking kind of to push them under, except spiral blocks are even stronger. So that's always a very interesting dynamic to spiral is that you see these kind of abstract fights. I think Silent prefers this kind of opening. Orange starts to threaten this kind of this early shark, kind of leaves it open. You would think at first this would be a bad position, but it's actually not too bad because if blue takes the opportunity to keep climbing, there's this great level disparity, and so whenever orange comes back into the game, so to speak, they're going to have pretty good item spawning chance. And since this is 1.4, X Factor is super strong, or rather just as strong as it is in vanilla, which still is super strong. And so I'm trying to think abstractly if there's anything that you can really do once you see that. And I think that the two philosophies are that you get super far ahead. That way, you're forcing the other player. They can't sit and they can't farm, right? They have to keep climbing. So if you keep going as fast as you can, maybe you can make the stage fall out from underneath of them, as well as you don't give them time to farm, as well as the hopes that in the future you'll be able to get far enough ahead to where you'll be able to set up for some spider defense. Um, but I wonder if there's anything, in this kind of opening where if another player does the shark, where you're able to maybe cross over even on this level, right, and start to set up for some defense. Because I'm trying to think, and I think positionally speaking, right, all blue has to do is pull this block, right? They get something here. That makes it pretty difficult for orange to do anything with this side, right? If orange were to cross over. I mean, the best solution is to pull this, you spider around, you go up, but that gives you plenty of time to do stuff. But anyway, where I'm going with this is that you pull this, and then you spider over to the orange side, and then you set up for some defense over here. And so I think the potential might be in the future to kind of set up for some defense on this particular row. I think that there's some good potential there. Um, because it takes orange actually a lot of moves, especially from this position, to get back into the game. Right? They have to get up, they have to climb, they have to pull, they have to go up, and then they have to do another pull. As opposed to you have two movements, a pull, and then you can just kind of move. So you'll be up positionally and you'll have pretty good strength, right? And this is a mirrored position, so really, if you do a similar thing to where you pull this block, you make things very difficult for orange. They can't use this column because of the dark hole block. So really what orange would have to do is they'd have to do some kind of pull, and they'd have to try to go up the outside, but then you could just play spider defense here. And actually, that is starting to look really scary. I don't know what orange can kind of do. They'd have to start to try to make some blocks drop, but I think there's a lot of potential to play defense on there. So let's go back to the board though, and let's see what happens in game. I'll have to try to incorporate that into my play a little bit. So here I think, yeah, blue is taking the approach, right? They're just going to keep trying to climb. Looks like orange gets rid of this dark hole block. That gives them this column back, right? So they'll probably have to push this. Yep, which they can do now because the dark hole block's no longer there. Blue's just playing some defense a little bit, right? Not like committing to the defense, but just enough to where it's a major hassle for orange to try to climb this. So if I'm looking at this, I mean, this is kind of ugly. I think my first instinct is to like pull this, climb, climb, and then turn, and then throw your block so that that's here, right? And then up and up. That is kind of scary though, because then you have this row dark hole blocks, which I'm sure blue has the potential, right? Blue is either going to climb up here or they're going to play some defense. If blue pushes this row, it becomes kind of tricky, but you'll have the block at least to where you could spider around and then maybe cause some mischief, especially because if they push this row, then you have two squares to work with. This is going to fall, so that sets up for possibly a Y reversal. So a lot of stuff going on there that I see. Uh, so yeah, pretty much you have options of either climbing up this way or trying to maneuver and get up this way as orange, right? I'm trying to think of the comeback. Or maybe you could try to get for some kind of X factor. Maybe you want to stay down this level, right? Maybe you want to go here and pull this block. I don't know. I'm just kind of theory crafting. The only issue with that I see is that Spiral's kind of tricky with the X factor because it's you have a lot to worry about with the dark hole blocks. So I would be worried that even if you got the X, that you don't really have anywhere to go with it, right? Like, okay, first instinct is that you can climb on top of this, but then this dark hole block makes it to where you can't even do anything. So you can spider around. Blue can play some defense. You got this block, maybe. You can't use this column because of the dark hole block. So I don't know. It's a tough call. Let's see what orange does though. Orange does this. That's fine. They're going to go for this 3D solve here, I think, which is fine. They're going to go even one higher. That's good. Get a nice turnaround solve. Pretty decent. I don't like that. Uh, yeah, I don't like this move here. But actually, this sets up pretty decent. I don't know why they didn't. I don't know why Sig didn't. Well, I see why he went for the juice. I think what I would have preferred at this point though is can I pause this? I think what I would have preferred is at some point coming over here and going up here and doing another 3D solve, right? I think that might have been kind of nice. Because I think this X is just too easy to defend against, especially when you get up here, right? You got a five wide tower, and you've got constant this like checkerboarding of these dark hole blocks to where any side that you go up is going to be just too tricky. I don't think the X is super valuable here, which probably we'll see. Right here, blue drops it a little bit. They should have played a little bit better defense there, but that's okay, right? Because you can see that even when orange gets up here, there's nothing they can do. And blue really should be a little bit more aware. Okay, that worked out pretty good. I think what might have been a little bit more optimal. I do like that, the idea of to bait for the pin. But I think really all you have to do is even at this position. Uh, Is there a way I can just go like one frame back? But anyway, if you would have pushed this instead, I'm curious, right? All that orange would be able to do is spider around, and they wouldn't be able to actually get into this row, right? So they'd have to go here. They could do the timing, right, where it's actually same frame where you let go and do the movement, and they'd be able to go into this square. But you could set up right here and wait and set up a pin there. So I think that might have been a little bit of a better move. Although that does set up some problems for blue because then they can't do anything. So maybe actually what the move should have been is a double pull, right? That gives them, because they have some depth in this column, that they're able to actually still use this block while taking away the potential for orange to spider on it. And then it also sets up to where you can stand on top of that and set up for a drop kick there. So that seems pretty strong to me. I didn't really like just the single pull there. Or if you do the single pull, maybe what would work is even again just going up again and pulling this, right? Because there's nowhere that orange can do. Orange can't pull here, and orange can't really climb. So just kind of stall, and I think the stall would have been a little bit stronger up here, again because since even with orange has the X, they can't stand here, and they can't get up here. So it essentially cancels out these two columns, so they don't have too much space to work with. Oh. Instead, they kind of push that, and I don't really like that much. Because this is making it really bad for if orange were to find a way up. But now there's actually no way up, right? I mean, you can see that this column's done, this column's done, this one and this one are all done. So that's funny to me. So let's see what happens next. It looks like Silent really does similar kind of opening. This time though, orange does not cross over. Orange gets rid of their dark hole block. Blue's taking the positional advantage early on. They're going to climb up their side. Orange is going to climb up their side. Um, Interesting pool there. I don't know. Uh, some suboptimal climbing, but that's okay. That's going to give them some time here to kind of mess with this. I kind of like that a little bit. Orange has to do a lot to defuse this situation. Uh, I think blue meant to just turn around or something there, right? Clearly. Again, online, so I'm sure there are some flubs here. This sets up pretty nice for some control over these two. Orange does a pretty good job. Good crossover, good use of the item. Good spider defense from blue. If I was orange, maybe I would push this. Yeah, I think that's a pretty crucial block that eventually needs to be pushed if you wanted to continue with that strategy. This is starting to look a little bit fragile. I think if I was blue, I might try to actually start to set up for a push out. Yep, so it looks like that is kind of what blue is doing, but they get the X, so they might opt to climb instead, and it looks like they do. I would have thought about maybe committing to the push out because this is just held up by these two blocks, right? So that is something I would have thought about coming over and crossing over and getting rid of those. Here we're going to have a bit of a stalemate, but that's okay for orange because this is going to burn blue's X. And they don't... Okay, yeah, they did a lot to... Again, similar to how orange had to defuse the blocks there, so did blue. Ooh, they're running out of X, though. It can't last much longer. This is going to be kind of tricky for orange. I think maybe what might have worked there would have been... when there were the two, when these blocks get set up, would have been trying to push them all over. I think that might have been a nice call, right? Trying to do where you push this and push it again instead to try to set up these two dark hole blocks. I think there would have been enough time to do that, but maybe not. I think it would have been worth exploring, though. Blue has the advantage here. Blue's able to just kind of gatekeep, right? Because they have the simple way up that forces orange to take more time to go up. Blue can do a push here, makes it more complicated for red, but not really that much. Orange is going to start to threaten actually to cross over, right? They took some time. They kind of baited out. Oh, yeah, I'm going up the long way and going up there. I don't like this from blue. I don't like the crossover. I think positionally holding the left side is much more valuable than the right now. Good drop kick. All you need to do is just play some Spire defense. Oh, that works too. And then that should be pretty much it for orange. Play some Spire defense in that square, maybe. Okay, a good bait to make orange get rid of that. Orange can just toss a square. They have a block. I don't know. So, I don't... Whoa, 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 whoa. Orange is going up this outside, but I don't know. I don't know. Doesn't orange have a block? Do they not? No, orange gets a block here, right? So once they get the block, they can do a couple things. One is that actually it might be nice just to toss the square to re-anchor all this, right? You toss the block, that way you made blue go up, and if you retoss it into here and re-anchor all this, that gives you a lot of room to work and climb up with. Um, or alternatively, I think the other spot that might be nice, actually maybe not the more I look at it, would have been tossing it right, which lets you get over to here. I guess some of the issues with that though is where there's nothing here, and so it actually, and then once this is gone as well, you only get this one column to work with. That might be kind of nice though, because if you set up like that, that actually makes it where you'll have direct control over what blue can do. Right? Because I don't know what blue is going to do from this position. I think blue probably, once this all goes, blue is going to have to cross over to here. So it's kind of tricky to say. Um, But yeah, I think my first instinct would be just to toss in. And even if all this is gone and you toss, that actually isn't that bad because when you have this block and this block here, you have a 2 high platform and you'll be able to interact with these blocks and this guy. So you're still in the game. I think that instead what orange does is when this connects down here, right, you have these blocks all anchor on down here, and then they try to go on here and then they toss this way, right? Oh, I have my arrowhead reversed. But they toss on the outside and they climb up there, which you don't want to climb up the side if you don't have to. Um, it's not super good. So we'll see what happens. Okay, yeah, so blue actually does continue to opt to climb up here, so I would be curious, right, if you would have had a potential to force blue to drop, although they have the item, so they could have just ignored it. But yeah, this is going to be blue's win. There's nothing orange can do at this point. They're already at the top. So, interesting stuff. Let's see, what is next? I think Imperio is next. Yeah. Um, okay. So here, I mean, spider defense is going to be pretty big because you got these long rows of the immovables. Um, so we'll see. It looks like blue is just kind of opting to climb a little bit. I don't know if I like that. That actually is really deadly to blues. This four platform is actually really ugly. So that's super interesting. If I was blue, yeah, blue has a really good position here and has enough time to kind of develop their structure. Uh, I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, the drop down. I don't think they meant to do that, so I'll write that up to a flub. Um, yeah, because now this is a reverse of positions to where orange has really good, right? There's nothing that blue can really do here, especially once this gets put over top like a little gate. Blue has to spend a lot of time to try to fix this down here. Orange is content to kind of play some defense. Um, blue, yeah, blue's just playing from behind here. This is kind of normal. Uh, stuff. Not too much to talk about. Basic climbing. Maybe blue has some potentials for X. Oh, this is looking really scary. I think the stage might fall out at any moment from under blue. Blue might have enough time. Yeah, they don't. It was maybe. It's just, yeah, that's what it looked like. Um, tough call. Tough to play from behind on Imperio. The only potential, nice dodges. It's kind of a little bit trickier to do those on net play as well. So let's see. Typically, what you always see on Imperio is that there's going to be a fight at the beginning, right? It's kind of similar to Quad in that respect, where there's an early fight over whatever the first block is, right? Sometimes because the monster block move on their own, right? Sometimes the monster block moves to the middle, and then there's always a fight over it. Because again, being so high up, that's a really nice positional advantage. This is kind of scary for blue, because if they miss this timing when they're here, orange drop kick, you can combo because there's no DP off of the immovable blocks. So that one's a little bit scary, I would say, right? That just the combo is scary, especially on net play, right? I think in person you can always kind of get the pull push, but sometimes online, there's delay, not always. Um, but yeah, players will always fight over this early block. And so that's why you see like Sig's last move was to, do this push push and then the push in the middle to where this falls down, which kind of ignores this whole fight, right? It gives the other player enough time to move up, and it gives you the trade-off of, oh yeah, well I'll just farm for some items a little bit. I'm okay with being a little bit positionally behind because I'll be item-wise ahead. Um, so that's the trade-off for that kind of school of thought. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that can really happen here. The other thing, right, is that on Quadrangle, what makes this a little bit more interesting is that when there's a fight for this, you can also set up to start to push stuff out. But on Imperio, of course, right, the whole map is constantly framed with these the four-sided immovable ones, and so you won't ever push this out. The only thing that you can do, it's kind of neat because all the other stages, they kind of fall from the outside, right? It's very easy on other maps to like make a whole side of the map fall, and then the inside is typically the strongest point, because typically in the middle you'll have blocks held up on the diagonals on both sides, right? As opposed to just the edge blocks are just typically held up by only one diagonal. And so it's easier to collapse the edges than it is the center. Um, but Imperio, since you can't collapse the center, the only thing that you can do is actually it lets you usually you can kind of collapse the middle a little bit, right? I mean, if you push one, two, three, this block falls, right? So it's kind of a reversal from the other maps. And so I'm trying to think on quadrangle, there's some variations you can do to where you can collapse the outside to help you climb. I wonder if there's something that you can do on Imperio to try to set up to avoid having to fight for this. Right? Maybe there's something you can do where you push out, where you pull this block, right, and you push this and you try to set up to get rid of this. You attack the center instead. I'm not sure if it's really worth it because again, that seems like that's pretty lengthy and time consuming. But those are just some of the thoughts I'm thinking of. Okay, yep. So you'll see a bit of a fight over here, right, for this one block. You'll see it for a little bit here. I'm not sure. Let's see. Eventually, yeah, okay. Orange gives up and tries to develop this, but, blue's already ahead, so they're able to now watch both of these blocks. This would be super scary. Uh, Orange is able to get that, get the drop kick there, so then that's going to be it for blue. Um, yeah, they don't have enough time to develop like that, and that's about the game. So, okay. Um, Yeah, that's why you. I mean, just going back, that's. Yeah. I don't think Blue should have lost that. Blue had the positional advantage. I think that they just missed an input or something like that, because otherwise that was pretty guaranteed they're up in that position. Um, I guess it is right for Orange, though, as the player, when you're in these positions, you want to make it more complicated. You want to make it more complicated for the other player to keep defending, right? So you want to pull these blocks. You want to push some stuff. You want to muddy the screen a little bit because when there's more options, that gives you a little bit more potential to do stuff and come back. So if you are behind and you're playing on these like single levels like that on Imperio, it is as the player behind or as the player who doesn't have the high ground, you want to make more high grounds available, right? You want to set up in a nice way. So we got Clock Tower, real explosive. Probably going to end early on. I think we're seeing less and less Clock Tower climb solves. Just because the stage is so fragile and players are getting so good at taking care of the bombs. Here, Orange is going to opt to get rid of their bomb, so Blue is going to get the positional advantage ahead, but Orange has stability on their side, so that's kind of nice. They're also going to get more items. So we'll see if Blue can kind of set up for some defense or really take advantage of this climb. It doesn't quite look like it. They're going to push this, do good old Ronnie Coleman, right? Move the heavy block. That's okay. Gives them the way up there. Orange is hoping for one of these items here. I would think if I was Orange, I might use the item kind of soon to keep up. Oh, I see. Orange kind of missed some inputs there, I'm pretty sure. And I think that actually, ooh, that's an X. Blue comes back. Let me think about this for a minute. I don't know if I like Blue coming back. I guess in one respect, you got these bomb blocks that are about to blow, right? They're going to blow this up. Bomb blocks blow up other bomb blocks. And then they're going to call some cracked shenanigans. So, actually, this whole tower would be very weak if they did not come back, right? I mean, pretty much you'll just have, like, these blocks a little bit left. And as orange, they could very easily, push and push and push this guy. And then that's would be catastrophic for blue. Um, so maybe it is a good call to come back. And this does set up. Orange doesn't have very many spots that they can go to. So I think here is actually a super strong position. So I take that back what I was saying. Um, that was just my instinct at first. This is pretty good from Orange. This is actually like this is this is a brilliant move what Orange does here. I'll just wait for it because I remember this now that I'm looking at this. All right, a good push, and it's kind of funny because I'll say that you know, uh, in some ways it's the only thing that you can do, and so it's simple. But other times, something so simple is sometimes hard to see, right? I mean, you don't have a lot of things that you can do with this position, and so what Orange does is about the only thing that they could. Um, but finding it was not an easy thing. It would be very easy just to kind of write it up as a loss and hope for the next game. But this is pretty impressive what Orange does. So Orange pushes this so that this block falls. They have X, so they're able to climb that. And they do a pull, and that's it for blue. So that was actually like a super big brain play, I think. Um, very impressive, I think. I think the other thing that might have worked too would have been instead of a, a push would have been a pull. Pull would have given you, you could have gone up on the outside or not, right? Let me see. Can I go back one more time? Yeah, right. I mean, if you pull this, right, then you have this block on the outside as well as this block fall. So you have the same thing, except now this is a bomb block. Um, so maybe you don't want that, but I don't think there's anything wrong with a pull there too. So a pull or a push is the only thing you can do with this block, and that sets up nice for this. And actually, blue can't really defend that too well. I guess the only thing that blue could do would be, would have been come over here and push this row on top, right? That way, it covers this, and orange can't actually get up. That does let orange, though, if they would pull, that does give them the option select to either they can go this way, or if blue defends that, then they can get on top of this bomb block that now they've pulled, right? Because once they pull this and they go back, this block crumbles, so it actually falls down to this crack block essentially becomes a bomb block. So I think the pull would have been slightly better, but it's still brilliant, brilliant play, right? The idea is the same of I need to get up, so look at this, bam, over and up, and then the pull just chef's kiss. That's the icing on the cake right there. Um, yeah, so I forget how the game ends because I was just kind of in awe after that play. That was the genius move, I think, of the whole tournament. I think that's probably the highlight to me, anyway. Now it's kind of funny because they reverse their roles, right? Blue opts to instead stay a little bit behind, play the stable game. Meanwhile, orange does a nice transition here because I think typically when a player does this kind of opening, um, the the when they don't toss out their bomb and they go for the inside, I think typically always the move is that most players do is they do the pull and then the pull and then there's their opening, right? There's their up, or they don't always pull this one. They sometimes pull it this way, right? I think that is typically the fast, right? That they do what blue did last time, right? And that's how the game always typically turns out. But orange had enough awareness to see that blue got the X, and so they transitioned the speedy opening into more solid on this side, right? Especially pulling this sets up nice to where even if blue gets ahead, right? Say, abstractly speaking, right? Orange maybe tries to come over here to interfere with blue using their X, but say that blue were to use their X and that they did get away. It doesn't leave orange in a bad position because they have both this side that they can climb on, probably, right? There might be some kerfluffle here, and so maybe these bombs get activated and this side gets kind of torn up. But because this block gets pulled, even when this block blows, you'll still have this nice 2 landing here to work with and be able to climb. And so that's actually super cool. You know what I mean? Um, and then it also just allows them to transition nicely to play offense. So they're able to turn this position of what was and what looked like just climbing into offense. So very good on them to do this. Um, Baited that out. This looks very tricky for blue, but blue has the X, so it's okay. I think blue should go in and then up. Yeah, and then out and then up. Kind of basic play. Maybe I would have grabbed the item block. Um, if you're blue, you don't have to play a little bit too scared here. They were just a little bit quick. I think if they went around and oh, good job. Okay. This is intense here because orange has this block, so they're not actually out. But blue has a lot of opportunity here to play some pretty good defense, I think. Um, Maybe not though. Actually, it might not be too bad because orange has a couple different things going in their favor. Blue should definitely keep this block here because what is kind of nice about this, right, is where you see that this block is anchoring there, and so orange actually can't, like, even if they were to pull this, they can't get up. they'd have to do something where they pull this and then they push it and then they push this to make this drop. But that becomes way too complicated and it still doesn't give them a solve. And there's plenty of time for blue to do something about that. So I think that blue should definitely keep that block there. And then the other thing too is that when I look at this, what can orange do? Well, orange can come up to here and then spider around, right? And then maybe they can cause some mischief with this block here and doing stuff. But I think even as blue, you have pretty good potential here to set up to play some defense. You have a block, so you can toss it if you ever need to. Um, as well as, since these are all heavy blocks, you have plenty of time. If orange is trying to pull something, you can opt to play defense around it, depending on what it is, or you can opt instead to climb for yourself. So those are my thoughts. I think that blue should play some defense here. I don't think that blue should climb. I think that this block staying there is critical. Meanwhile, I think for orange, the things that are critical is definitely coming up and around. I think that would be the play I would take because this outside is so flimsy. So let's see what happens in game. I don't quite remember. So blue, okay, looks like orange is opting to climb on the outside. I don't super like that because, again, you see, right, there's all this time now that is just spent with this. Um, I don't like that a lot. Oh, orange gets this item, which that can be a problem. I think that this is fine, but yeah, there's a bomb block there. That was complicated, and it's actually kind of funny because I don't. So this is actually super interesting because this block that I had pointed out earlier still is here, right? Orange can still kind of come spider around and push this and then climb up this nice position that blue had before. Blue kind of has a little bit of tricky stuff to work with here. Actually, it might not be that bad. Really, all they have to do is they just have to push, let this fall, and then they have an item so they can do a 3D solve, right? They can get up and then, there's a block now here, and they'll be able to climb up there and do stuff. So I think blue is actually okay. Orange is the one. I don't know. It's kind of tricky to tell. I wasn't keeping track how soon this level is going to fall out. But actually, they have enough time to get up one more and then go around. So they're good, I think. Let's see what orange does. Orange instead throws the block. Okay, they didn't need to. They could have just spidered around. But you see, blue's doing this thing here. I don't necessarily agree with this, but it might work out because this does set up really nice where orange can't really do much else, right? Orange has to go on the inside down. There has to be a definitive fight in this area. Um, so we'll see how blue can play that. I guess the weak spots that I would be wary of would be, you have one is that these are crack blocks, and crack blocks are always scary because the position's constantly changing. But if orange pushes this, this actually sets up kind of nice because this block falls and it catches onto here. So might be able to do some stuff there as well as leave this spot open, right? So then orange has two ways to come up and blue has to play double defense. Might not be too bad though because I guess blue can kind of push this, but then blue has no way to get up. If I was blue, maybe what I would do would actually be climb up here, turn around, and do the 3D solve. I think that might be nice, right? And then get up, and then you can pull this block on the outside, and that gives you some pretty nice Aji, right? Nice potential. But that might take a little bit because as soon as you step up here, orange is going to step up here and try to push that out. I think you would win the interaction technically, but you give orange pretty strong position. So we'll see how this actually plays out. Blue said opts to climb this way. I don't know why they didn't go over for some spider defense. This is kind of funny because orange uses that kind of solve, right, to solve that, except blue gave it to him. So this is intense. There's not a lot of room for orange to climb here. They actually can't really do anything, right? Essentially what they'll have to do is they'll have to try to win this game where maybe they go up, they push this stuff out, right? And they let a couple columns fall, but maybe they're only going to get 2 or 3 more levels up. Meanwhile, blue, you got some issues here because I think this is a bomb block as well. So this whole section is about to go. And so blue doesn't really have much. Maybe what blue could try to do would be real quick run over here and pull this. That way, even when this starts to fall, maybe you get this. But actually, that's not super good because all this is held up now by orange. Right? Let me clear the screen a little bit. It's kind of interesting because now all this is held up by orange, even when this block goes, right? So there's nowhere that blue can really climb. So what can blue do? Blue's only potential here really, and what they have to do, again, the stage is looking like Swiss cheese, right? It's got all these holes. It's very weak. Blue has to go down here and start to attack the structure. There's not a lot of room to work with, right? Say that blue does go here. Um, Blue goes here. You can't spider defense. There's nothing. It's not full body, right? You can't swap. So say you go down, say you go back up, you get rid of this block, then you drop down here, and then you come over here, and then maybe you push this out. But orange has the potential here to drop on top of you. So I think that orange is actually super winning this position. So let's see. I'm not sure how this plays out. I think it ends with orange's win here, but I'm not sure. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, I guess that's fine. I don't know if I super agree with that because this sets up uh, where blue can spider here. That's the one thing I would be worried about. I think that actually they had it when they just sat there. Um, but okay, this might work. It is nice to have a dark block. I think the dark block on the outside would have gotten you much more. But let's see. Wouldn't even have let them have the opportunity to spider because they have to, right? Otherwise, orange just steps up one more. So you see the spider, you see the drop, you see blue doing this thing, right, of trying to get it all. But uh, yeah, this was a desperation play, which is fine. Um, yeah, that I think that's about game. There's nothing that blue could have done, and so that's going to be the set, I think. Whew, but that was intense. Orange wins that, so Sig won that. That was a very intense game, and I really liked how this played out. And even though players are playing online, there's a lot of there was just still very high skill level. Um, so that's great. I hope we continue to keep seeing the advances in Catherine. There wasn't too much, I don't think, tech really that happened, other than the notable things would have been, I guess, Silent Black Cat got the dodge, right? Avoided the DP, managed to live through that, so that was pretty impressive. I'm trying to think of other tech-worthy moments, but they're escaping me right now. But yeah, very very interesting stuff. I think some of the areas that we as a community kind of need to improve on is we need to take some time to really think about what to do on the Imperio and the quadrangles, the fights. I think the early level fights. I think that quadrangle we have developed it a good bit, especially with some of the outside solves. That's what I'm categorizing them as. Um, but I think on Imperio we're still kind of playing it with a classic like a 2012 mindset. Really, that hasn't really developed that much, other than the one opening to push at the start. Um, but I would like to see some advancements with that, and in general of what to do with a slight positional lead. Right? It's kind of funny because with the players, it's pretty clear what to do when you are obviously ahead. Usually players can play spider defense or they'll keep climbing, but it's the more ambiguous situations where it's like, well, technically I have the lead right now, I have the height advantage, but you don't have enough time to develop into a climb and convert that into anything meaningful. Um, and so what do you do? I think Jordy is pretty good at playing these stalled positions in particular. He does that a lot on Torture Chamber, right? He'll do this thing where he pushes out the whole stage and kind of forces these one neutral interaction fight. And I think that there's room for some theory to be developed for that. Otherwise, I hope this video was useful for somebody, maybe interesting, but yeah, thanks for watching.